ASMR Who, and I just watched the story and the engine. There might be a little bit of sort of background noise this week. There's some of my housemates just doing little bits of stuff at the moment. It shouldn't be too bad, but if there is, that's what that is. But yeah, the story and the engine, written by Inua Ellams. Now I know there was a little prequel, short story that was released on the website this week leading up to this episode, which is kind of what you get told as well in the pre-titles. So I didn't get around to reading that, but you get it in the pre-titles anyway. But that was interesting, and it was nice to see all the illustrations and the kind of the animated aspect. I thought that was really fun and really interestingly integrated into the episode this week. But I liked it. Kind of general thoughts was I think this was good. My big problem with this episode, and it's not really with the content of the episode itself, but it's the title. And not even specifically the title, the story and the engine. More specifically, the and in the title. Is it the word and, or is it an ampersand? Because it's so inconsistent. So when the titles were announced on Twitter, in the actual text of the tweet, it was the story in the engine with an ampersand, but in the little animated thing that went along with it, it was the story in the engine with the written word and. When you go onto iPlayer, it's the story and the engine with the written word and, but then in the titles of the episode, it's with an ampersand. So which is it? What's going on? Why is there no consistency there? It's a bit weird, and ultimately it doesn't matter. But it's just like what? It's just an odd thing that what's going on there? Why is there no? Why is there not a definitive this is what the title is? It's not something that has ever really shown up as an issue before. Like most of the time, if it's a story with the word and in it, it's the written word and. The one exception is Love and Monsters, which uses an ampersand, but yeah, anyway, so it's just that's a silly little thing that sort of irritated me a little bit about this, but the actual episode itself I enjoyed. I was looking forward to this one on the basis that it was just very different to anything we've seen before. It looked totally different. Obviously it's a brand new writer, Inua Ellams. I'm not familiar with any of his previous work, and he's also kind of the most interesting new writer for this season. Obviously Sharma Angel Wolfhall was a co-write with Russell, so there's always going to be an element of it's still a Russell script. Pete McDyke, we've seen scripts from him before, and obviously he does work on the collection trailers, and so we kind of get a sense of his style. Similarly, next week with Juno Dawson, she's written stuff for the expanded media. I was also kind of a little bit familiar with her sensibilities from her time on the official podcast when that was briefly a thing. But I don't know, Inua Ellams. I've never read any of his previous work. He's never written for the show in any capacity before. So it's a kind of a totally, he could have given us anything. And you could tell from the previews and the preview images and stuff for this episode that it's totally different to anything that we've had before. You could just feel it, and I was excited for it on that merits. And this was really interesting, and really, just a lovely, unique was decent. It kind of bounced off me a little bit. Perhaps I kind of need to rewatch this a little bit as well, just to kind of get more of a sense of exactly what's kind of going on there, I suppose. But I like the idea that this doctor has found this community in Lagos. It's a really interesting aspect of this doctor. He kind of right at the start talks about it's the first time I've had this black body, and I am treated differently in some places, but I've found a community here, and that kind of being a bonding moment with Belinda as well, where she's like, oh God, like she's still very much like, get me home, but also go and spend time with your people, go and be part of a community and feel safe and feel loved. That was a really interesting wrinkle for this doctor, something that makes him unique. And so I liked it for him, but I liked it for the relationship with Belinda there as well, and also the fact that then he feels betrayed later on when Omo kind of has kind of lured him almost to come and Omo wants him to come so that he can give all the stories and they can all leave, so I thought that was a really interesting element to throw in, and I think that's something you can clearly tell comes from someone of colour, a black writer who is kind of going, yeah, but you find your community elsewhere. So that was wonderful. That was really nice. I really liked the Doctor's relationship with Omo. It's a little bit unusual to just have this idea of the Doctor's got this kind of found family that we've not seen before, and it feels very specific to this Doctor that we've not seen before. But it was still interesting. It was still a nice sort of thing. And it's not uncommon for the Doctor to have friends and people he knows that he has relationships with, off screen, that we then meet. That's not a new thing to the show. And I thought it was a really interesting dynamic. I thought it was fun that there were not necessarily fun. I like the kind of side characters well enough. They were decent. I like that you got a moment where they all kind of spoke about what they'd left behind, why they'd come to get a haircut, and the fact that they were kind of scared and were kind of forcing the Doctor into the chair. It kind of reminded me, it had an element of Midnight. Funnily enough, obviously, given that we had the Well a couple of weeks ago, but the idea of a group of scared people in an enclosed space, who kind of turn on this guy to save themselves. But yeah, I thought that they were an interesting bunch of characters. I thought that the barber was an interesting kind of antagonist. But yeah, I came away from this episode feeling kind of how I expected to, where I liked it, but there are definitely going to be other people who get way more out of it, and that's absolutely fine. I thought it was really interesting. I think it's nice to kind of, everyone makes it out at the end, and there's a kind of a reconciliation, and there's an understanding that this guy has done this bad thing, kind of out of spite and out of vengeance, and it's a very human thing, and he's not trying to hurt people, but he's trying to, he's been hurt, and so he feels vengeful for that, but the other people that he will hurt because of it, and the fact that, and again, it's this idea of this community in Lagos that are there for him anyway, that care, that will welcome him in despite what he's done, and will give him a place to be. I think there's a really lovely theme of kind of community and found community and found family there. I feel like this is going to be a bit of a shorter video because I have a little bit less to say on this episode, I think. But I should mention my jaw, and by the way, as all these videos are, full spoilers, so if you haven't watched the episode, go and do that. I haven't watched Unleashed yet either. But I should say my jaw hit the floor when Jo Martin as the fugitive doctor showed up. That was such a wonderful... I mean, she feels so kind of tied to the 13th Doctor's era that you just don't expect her to show up, but I think that's a wonderful thing where, like, every once in a while she can just pop up and we can just be like, yeah, she did stuff. I think it was really great as well that the Doctor had met Abby in a previous life with Anansi, but that it was a black Doctor. That felt right. And that's, you know, that might sound very white of me, I suppose. And, you know, I don't want to kind of infer too much or kind of make too much of a specific comment either way on the black aspect of this story. Obviously it's a black writer, it's a black cast, black director as well, I believe, which is wonderful. But it felt like if it was, you know, God forbid David Tennant again, like, yeah, fine, but it felt right that it would have been weird if it was a white Doctor, I think. Maybe that's just me, but then also you get to have your cake and eat it too, because later on you get all the clips of the old Doctors and it's all the white Doctors. So that was really a nice aspect of it. I'm trying to think. I thought Belinda was good in this. She didn't get quite as much to do as some previous episodes, which is a really strong character. You know, there was a good bit of initiative where she kind of understands enough that the TARDIS is kind of reactive. I don't know if she quite understands that it's alive, but she realises that, like, you can kind of communicate with it, and so she's like, show the source of what's going on, and that's how she's able to find her way to the barber shop. That was just a great little companion moment. As I said, the moment at the start where she kind of allows the Doctor to go and be part of a community was really great. I'm not quite sure what the point of the scene where she knocks over a barrel, and then is that like a police officer who kind of pulls her out for like causing trouble? That was a bit odd because then nothing came of it. Maybe there was a deleted scene in there, who knows. But no, Belinda was good. We get to see a little bit more about her time as a nurse as well. Obligatory Mrs. Flood appearance, although it's fine because she's just as Belinda's neighbour, like she was in the first episode. And this idea of Belinda, you know, you might be able to hear my housemate there. This idea of Belinda giving up her time and giving up, you know, giving up her own sort of freedoms for other people. You know, it's a real, obviously she's a nurse, but you really get this sense that she will do that, and the fact that Belinda saves the day in the end almost by being able to convince Abby, who's then able to help the Doctor. Yeah, she's just a wonderful character, and I really missed her last week. But this was, this was good. I don't think I have all that much else to comment on personally. I really like the aspect of the storytelling. I like the side characters. It's really great to see episode unlike one we've had for a long time. And I really enjoyed that. I'd be down to see another Inua script. Maybe he doesn't want to do another one. Maybe this is his one and done. But it was lovely to see him, to have a fresh voice. And this really did feel like a unique voice for the show, which was wonderful. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the story and the engine. I enjoyed it. It's not my favourite this series. It's not my least favourite. This was good. As I say, I think other people will probably get a lot more out of it than I will. But it was good. I enjoyed it. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the story and the engine. Let me know what you thought. Did you enjoy it? Maybe this wasn't for you. Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment, like this video if you liked it. Subscribe as well if you haven't and you like what we do here. And yeah, that's all from me this week. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time for the Interstellar Song Contest. Thank you. Bye bye.